Malcolm Turnbull must be removed from office. The new rules will also require campaign ads to carry authorization and include offences against bribery and threats. The Senate has passed special laws to regulate the conduct of same-sex marriage debate by banning vilification, intimidation, and threats, despite protests from a handful of crossbench senators who warned of a threat to free speech. Well, here's the thing. It is a threat to free speech. Threats are already illegal. So if you threaten someone, then that's already against the law. So there's no need for that. As for vilification and intimidation, who decides what was vilification and what was intimidation? I guess George Brandis decides that, or maybe it's the judge that's sitting on the case. Either way, it's kind of subjective, and once you've got subjective feelings into the law, that's when you're attacking free speech. This is a direct assault on our freedom to speak. The postal survey on same-sex marriage is now underway, with the first survey forms already in the mail. The non-binding survey is not a formal election, so the yes and no campaigns are not bound by the normal rules contained in the Electoral Act, which is why Labor and the Coalition agreed extra protections were needed. The new laws, which will be in force for the length of the campaign, will specifically outlaw vilification, intimidation, and threats against people for their views on the survey on the basis of their sexual preference, gender identity, or intersex status. Now, I just had a really quick look at the Australian Electoral Commission website, and as far as I can tell, there are no current laws outlawing vilification or intimidation. So the idea that this law is required now to somehow rectify a difference between a normal election campaign is plainly false, as far as I can tell. I'm happy to be proven wrong on this one. If someone could please point me to where it is against the rules under a normal election circumstance to vilify or intimidate someone, then please let me know. Other than that, it just seems like a flat-out lie from Labor and the Coalition designed just to police our speech. The protections will also cover those targeted for their religious beliefs. All campaign conduct will be covered by the laws. My best idiot politician voice.
The arrangements will apply to communications of all forms, including paid advertisement, social media, bulk text messages, and telephony, broadcast matter and printed material,
Finance Minister Matthias Cormann said.
While the government would like nothing more than for these provisions never to be used,
Bullshit.
their inclusion gives the Parliament the opportunity to send a clear message that hateful and malicious conduct will not be tolerated.
This is just classic spin from someone in a position of power who just gets off on abusing that power. Hateful and malicious conduct will not be tolerated. Give me a break. The court of public opinion is more than capable of deciding what is hateful and malicious and whether or not it should be tolerated. We don't need some ivory tower spastic politician telling us whether or not something is hateful and malicious and whether or not we should tolerate it. That is not his position to take. This is the exact kind of thing that every totalitarian in history has said whenever they've tried to police people's speech. Telling people that what they say could be hurtful, it might hurt your sensibilities, it might be a danger to the state, it might hurt children. They say things like this all the time. It might threaten the revolution. It doesn't matter how they spin it. Every single time, this is an attack on freedom of speech. And freedom of speech is a fundamental right ordained to us upon our birth by God and the universe. No politician has the right to take that away from us. Attorney General George Brandis will act as the Postal Survey's watchdog and will have the power to decide whether alleged breaches of the new rules should be prosecuted. Penalties will be decided by the federal court. Fines for hate speech could be as high as $12,600, and the court will have the power to order advertising takedowns through injunctions. Well, I'm so glad that King, Lord Emperor, Attorney General George Brandis, almighty knower of all things that are good and bad, has the power to decide whether alleged breaches of the new rules should be prosecuted. All hail Attorney General George Brandis. Goodness me, this is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I cannot believe that this is coming from a Liberal government. There will also be laws against the use of bribery and threats, and heavy penalties for advertising that does not include a formal authorization to identify the publisher. Broadcasters who air content from one side of the campaign will legally be required to give the other side a chance to respond and air their views. The rule includes commercial broadcasters and the ABC and SBS. Here's the thing. That part of this rule or this law isn't so bad. If it was just that, I would totally agree with it. But also, ABC and SBS should be required to do this all the time. These two organisations are constantly using taxpayer funds to campaign for one side. I always get the ABC and the SBS's news, and whilst the ABC has almost been pulled into line, SBS is flat out campaigning for the yes side. The opposition voted in favour of the bill, but Labor Senator Penny Wong said it was admission that there was harm already being inflicted in the postal vote campaign. Only it's coming from your side, Penny. It's the yes side that are doing the vast majority of the bullying, the vast majority of the attacks against people who disagree with them.
This bill cannot stop all of the hurt, all of the prejudice that's being expressed,
She said.
but it provides limited protections, and on that basis the opposition will be supporting it.
The bill will now head to the House of Representatives before it is passed into law. Well, let's hope that Malcolm Turnbull sees some sense before he actually passes it, although I highly doubt that that's going to happen. This law is absolutely horrendous. I cannot believe that a Liberal Party has introduced this. Of course the Labor Party are going to support it. The Labor Party don't support free speech. Guess what happens now if and when the Labor Party get into power? They now have a precedent set by the Liberal Party that this kind of thing is okay. Here is a message to people who are in the Liberal Party either as MPs or as members. Get rid of Malcolm Turnbull and George Brandis immediately. Get rid of them right away and then apologise to party members and the Australian people for this disgusting law, this vicious attack on our freedom of speech. Apologise for it. Call it an abomination because that's what it is. Unless you do that, when Labor get into power, they'll be able to do things that are much worse and you won't be allowed to say a thing.